This is the former steelworks site on the River Tees south bank, known as Teesworks. At one point in time, British Steel employed 19,500 people here. By 2015 it had closed, and by 2022 it had been demolished.
I am a proud Teessider. I am a steel worker of 26 years. I'm proud of my heritage and I am worried for my family. This morning I was told I'm losing my job. What does the future hold? Well, I'm nearly 50. I'm proud to say that I am a skilled worker. Skills honed over the years of working in steel, but they are skills too unique to transfer. Teesside has one of the highest unemployment rates across the UK. What will the future look like for me and my family? This isn't just a speech at conference. This is a plea to David Cameron to save my livelihood and my community. My name's Brian Dennis. I'm an ex-team leader on the steelworks. I used to work on the Concast plant.
How long were you there for?
I was there for 26 years.
And where's it gone?
Well, the Concast plant's now all gone. In 2015, there was a decision made by the government at the time that they couldn't help because of state aid rules. I think it was a bit of a misnomer really, because Ilva Steel over in Italy, they got over €1 billion to help their steelworks. They're part of Europe. The French and the Germans helped their steelworks, but our government hid behind state aid rules and said they couldn't help. So eventually in 2015, the place was shut.
So what they argued was that Europe wouldn't take the product because it would give an unfair advantage. Is that what it is?
Well, the state aid means that you cannot help and put others at a disadvantage, but the rules didn't seem to apply to Italy, France and Germany. It was just very convenient in my eyes that the Conservative government didn't want us, they didn't want to help. Maybe it's because we were a Labour heartland. People did say at the time, if the steelworks was in Kent, they would be helping.
What did it feel like at the time when you found out that they were going to close the steelworks?
The guy who actually came down from the company to shut us down was a guy called Kirby Adams. And I was in Steelhouse, the building over on the left there, and we were talking in the foyer, and he comes over, strides in, stuck his hand out, said, "Hi, my name's Kirby Adams. I've come to shut your works today." And I looked him in the eye and I had hold of his hand and I said, "Well, somebody's going to have a better Christmas than others, aren't they?" And I was absolutely devastated when it happened. There's no other words for it.
Feels rather callous.
Oh, it was. Look, people, if they wanted to help, the government and the company, they could have done. And that's the callous thing about it. That's where people's lives and sense of community was thrown on a scrap heap. 26 years there, I worked with some of them guys and I seen them more than I did my family. It's 12 hours a day, 4 days a week, 48 hours, and you don't understand unless you've been there. And these industries will never be replaced like that. They're not going to be like that. We were more of a family together in the steelworks than we were work colleagues.
We're here now in front of the Teesworks. This is meant to be, well, the Conservative replacement. This is meant to be the job fountain, I suppose, for the area. Are the men that you worked with at the steelworks, are they employed here now, do you know?
I know a couple of guys who've worked all the way through. They were part of a group of people who were employed to look after the site, because on day one when you shut, there's still lots of chemicals, lots of liquids, lots of substances that need to be cared for. And so they were part of a group of people who were employed to be on the site. The new businesses that are coming, I know very, very few. Nobody said to me, "Oh, I work on the wind farm." But bearing in mind that the wind farm is still under construction, so these jobs probably won't be there just yet.
The area was championed by local Conservative Mayor Ben Houchen and cabinet ministers to regenerate the area into a post-Brexit freeport. It's supposed to be a bastion of the Tories' flagship levelling up projects. Areas given freeport status benefit from tax reliefs, simplified customs procedures, and planning processes. The aim is to incentivise private businesses to relocate to the area to boost redevelopment. They're encouraged through government support and large tax subsidies. Yet, since its launch in 2021, the project has been plagued by allegations of cronyism.
110 acres has basically been bought by a company, 90% owned by friends and close associates of Lord Houchen, at £1 an acre. £1 an acre, that's 110 acres. There was then a leasing deal and some rights over scrap metal on the site. That together means that the company, 90% owned by these associates, has a turnover of £143 million and about £50 million in profit in 1 year that has largely now gone out to these private shareholders. In your view, at first blush, does that sound like best value was secured for taxpayers?
I can't answer that question, as you know, because while this inquiry is going on, what I mustn't do is preempt or end run its conclusions.
Subsequent reports show a handful of businessmen were given the green light to extract millions of pounds out to shareholders, while the taxpayer covered the costs, took the risk, and in the words of neighbouring Labour MP Andy MacDonald, paid the price.
In terms of shifting the dial on some of the economic realities for the people around here, it hasn't shifted it one jot. What it's done is made some business people extraordinarily wealthy, bearing none of the risk but getting all of the reward, and leaving the investment in the hands of the public sector. The GMB and Unite have presented the Tees Valley Mayor with a framework agreement basically to reflect good work pledges that you would see the likes of Sadiq Khan, Andy Burnham insist upon when they're going about economic regeneration. But I'm afraid this current Tory mayor has no interest in that. So there is a concern that terms and conditions and rates of pay and security will be diminished, and that's why I'm working with trade unions to make sure that cannot happen. But if we get across the line on July the 4th, these are the things that we've really got to bottom out. And quite frankly, we've probably got more prospects of success with some of the major players, the likes of BP and Equinor. I engage with them. We want these green industries, hydrogen, carbon capture, utilisation and storage. I've been banging on about this for a long, long time. We want the benefits of that, but it's got to benefit the people here, and that has got to be focused on the working people. I mean, the sort of sums of money that a constituency like mine get from the alleged levelling up programme are peanuts. You know, opposite the devastation caused by underfunding of our local authority, and of course the decline in the economy. And it's places like mine that feel it the worst every single time. So it's a complete lie and deceit to say that levelling up has in any way impacted. It is just it's a mechanism to try to persuade people that they're doing something, when the reality is they're doing diddly squat. My select committee just settled a report on free ports and investment zones, and actually devoted an appendix to what had gone on here, because this is exactly how you don't do it. I mean, the ridiculous thing is there was a piece of land here on which the monopile factory now sits, was handed over to these private developers for £1 an acre, having been acquired for £12 million. Now, if somebody explained to me how that is value for money, I'm all ears. But what they then did was lease that freehold back to the public sector, £3.8 million per annum over 40 years, who then in turn leased it back to the monopile company for £4.3 million over the same term, and then sold the income stream. It's believed that they got up to £93 million for that. Now, that's not a bad deal by anybody's imagination. So I'm really concerned about value for money and the opportunities that we have lost to create a sovereign wealth fund for Teesside. This could have been a game changer for this entire territory if we'd invested in this, and the returns then ploughed back into the communities. There's all sorts of social good that could have come out of this. But what's happened? A handful of businessmen have just become inordinately rich as a result of our investment. And that's the painful element to this. And it certainly hasn't shifted the dial one jot in terms of child poverty and inequality in this territory.
The first freeport in the United Kingdom opened in the 1980s under Margaret Thatcher in an attempt to combat a declining economy and stimulate regional activity following deindustrialisation. However, these failed to live up to expectations, and by 2012, the Conservative-led government decided not to renew their licences. Despite evidence of a cash grab by big business and little indication of growth for local people, fast forward to 2018, post-Brexit, local MP Simon Clarke was fighting to secure a freeport in his constituency.
Why are freeports back on the agenda after a 3-decade hibernation? And the answer, of course, is Brexit. Leaving the European Union is the perfect opportunity for establishing supercharged freeports for 3 reasons. First, we'll be free from EU regulatory restraint, and therefore we'll have the freedom to create something meaningful rather than just glorified bonded warehouses. Second, as we pivot from Europe to look at the rest of the world as well, we will need to be even more competitive to attract new business. I think this is something I really cannot sufficiently emphasise. If we are accepting a looser economic relationship with Europe, we have got to establish better ways of enhancing our trade relationships with the rest of the world. Otherwise, economically, the exercise will lose all meaning. And third, in the event that we end up with no preferential trading relationship with the EU, freeports would help us to maintain frictionless trade, especially for just-in-time supply chains.
In his pitch during a speech in Westminster Hall, local MP Simon Clarke conceded that even though they hadn't really worked during Thatcher's government, they would be worth pursuing if government were ambitious and signed off deregulation in their entirety.
When people talk about freeports as miraculous policy ideas, what they're saying sort of subtextually is also we want to be able to turn labor on like a faucet, bring it in when we want and eject it when we no longer want it. And that's, for me, one of the more kind of politically disturbing parts of that imagination. Even when it succeeds in the form of Canary Wharf, which is basically a huge giveaway to developers. The state builds infrastructure on behalf of private actors. Most of the money gets either put on conveyor belts and taken outside of the country, or else the spaces of residential real estate gets used as kind of glorified safety deposit boxes for investors from abroad. And on top of that, you can't even have the same rights of protest or organization that you would expect in a kind of workaday street anywhere else in the country.
It's a real asset to the area, and it's going to open up the opportunity for employment, I'm sure, and with a bit of luck bring some finance into the town.
Have you noticed any of that already? Have you seen businesses be attracted to the area?
When the weather's like this, we seem to get more and more, but that's probably just the weather. But we think that there's a lot more people seem to be moving into the town.
Can I ask, did you notice when the steelworks closed down in 2015, what effect did that have on the local area?
It was like a mood of darkness came over the town, because Redcar's always had a lot of employment, either from the steelworks or prior to that from ICI at Wilton. So it's been an area, I think, of full employment, and to get that situation, pretty awful.
So there hasn't been, what has it been like having a Conservative mayor in the area and a Conservative member of Parliament? Has that done much?
I think the mayor's done quite well with the freeport and so forth. He's been criticised once or twice for the way he runs the business, but looking at results, we appear to be getting what we were promised. As to the local MP, I haven't noticed any effect from him at all. Look at the town. When I first came here, 50 years ago, this town centre was thriving and busy and popular, and there was never a vacancy for a shop. Now you could have any one of dozens.